What's up, guys? This is Will Hoyt coming at you with another video. Laptop's done, so I just said screw it, I'm going to start recording from my phone. Anyways, new players. We all want them. There's a lot of people starting to get into the RPG habit who are very young, usually between the ages of 14 to 23. That's probably where you're going to get most of your new players. Most of the other guys are, I don't mean new to your group, I mean new to RPGs. So this video is basically explaining how best to work with them. Number one rule, don't go against the gradient. I know that sounds bad. You want them to learn to play RPGs your way. We're all human. We all do. Let's get over this. But a lot of people play MMOs. So instead of completely going against the gradient, you need to make sure they know this isn't an MMO, guys. You can't go farm for experience. But do like there's usually like a tutorial village or town where it's like the first area you're in ever is filled with nothing but low monsters and easy quests, and that's where the game's explained to you. Go ahead and embrace this. It can be a completely isolated area. In some campaigns, I've had like tutorial ships for Dark Heresy. Like I just straight up start with the dungeon crawl sometimes. But what you really need to do is you need to give them the ability to use skills in addition to just combat abilities. If that's what you're going for, really express everything that's good about the game and everything they need to learn right off the bat and make it fun and engaging. Now, people are also going to want to dick around. You really need to establish how much this is acceptable and under what terms. For example, in one of my campaigns, we had one problem player, and everyone wanted to punch him in the face in game and out of game. So they just did it in character. And it started being like, okay, you're making an unarmed strike roll against his AC. Then they now understood what an AC was. This was D&D. They now understand what an AC is. They now understand that unarmed attacks do non-lethal damage. They now understand non-lethal versus lethal damage. And then as he kept doing it, I said, okay, you don't have the feat. You now he gets an attack of opportunity back at you. I introduced game mechanics organically. That's how a lot of people learn to play RPGs. You really should embrace and work with this. What else? Let them be who they want to be. And you also need to realize that not everyone is fit for every campaign. Like, I've got some friends who I just, honest to God, really want to be in some of my campaigns, but it's like, they're very, if you just stick them in like a dungeon or in the adventuring party, they're fine, but if you give them like any sort of NPC leader or someone they're supposed to respect and look up to, within the first 3 sessions it's going to be really rough, and maybe after that they'll earn respect, but you really have to ask yourself, will they completely curb stomp this campaign within the first 3 sessions by just slowing it to a grind? If people are going to question everything your NPCs do, don't have them around NPCs as much. And if they just, see NPC authorities as assholes, make them assholes. Make that justifiable. Or don't, and kind of play off it like that. You really need to play to the strengths of your players and the strengths of your system. If the system isn't very lethal, you need to make that apparent right off the bat. It's like, hey guys, you've got tons of hit points. I don't defang my systems. If the system is dangerous, I let people know that off the bat, and I tell them it's like Dark Souls. If you play smart, you'll be fine for the most part. And I tell them, sometimes people do die because of bad dice rolls. I try to avoid that, and I tell them I'll work with them. But if you're being stupid and you die, well, that's your fault. I just up front tell people what I really expect from them. I think it's also important that you really talk with them. Just sit down at the end of every session and be like, what did you enjoy about the game? And try to get a conversation going. Don't expect everyone to contribute to this conversation. There will be some people who just go as far as, yes, I liked it. I enjoyed the combat, or I enjoyed the metagame references, or I enjoyed whatever. And you won't get much more feedback than that from them. It's okay. Or maybe it isn't. Before you even recruit players, you really need to figure out what you want from your campaign. Because then they're going to be confused if you don't. Now, a lot of people, if you throw a lot of comedy into your games like I do, you really have to be mindful of how ADHD the players are. Because I have some players who can go from being like silly to like dead serious, like that. It's like switching masks. It really is for them. They're good role players and actors. And other ones, if you make anything that's vaguely like a metagame reference, they won't let it go for the rest of the time, and maybe they'll leave me that one dickhead that keeps pulling up YouTube on their phone when you're in the middle of, like, explaining things. Yeah, you don't want that guy in your group. He might be your friend, he might beg to be in. It's like, no, sorry, man, I'm just ADD, bipolar, blah, 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 blah. And, you also have to be mindful over, unfortunately, how intelligent some of your players are. Same guy doesn't have reading comprehension skills and refuses to do basic math in RPGs. He wants me to do it all for him, and he kind of just wants to be silly the whole time. Kind of don't play with that group anymore, because the rest of the group kind of followed his path, and well, I got tired of running shit for them. Quite frankly, I kind of just dropped the group. Don't be afraid to do that. Um, you know, Maybe there's a couple players from that group that I'll keep, but I believe in cast netting. There's a lot of people who say they'll play an RPG with you, and then once you get down to it, they're just not fun to play with, or, maybe they're just not right for you. But anyways, let me know what you guys thought. This was some basic tips, and I'm trying to make my video shorter. Will Hoyt, signing out.